Ladies and gentlemen, well, no more need for self-introduction. So let me start our presentation. Representing the two presenters, I would like to make the whole presentation and respond to your comments and questions. Today, we are going to speak about happiness, or GNH, in a different way. Today, what we are going to pitch is an idea that Bhutan formulate its own stock exchange, which is open to global companies and investors, as its unique contribution to the global sustainable development. We would name it the Happiness Exchange. Taking contribution to GNH as a listing requirement for the new stock exchange, Bhutan could invite the global listed companies to come to list in Bhutan. Since the turn of the century, we have witnessed a dramatic change in the global landscape of development finance. Domestic public resources rose rapidly to some $5.5 trillion to be the largest source of finance. And domestic private resources also quadrupled and reached almost $4 trillion. In the meantime, international public finance, net ODA flow, and other official flows rose moderately, but it's small in absolute amount and declining relative importance as source of development finance. Composition of the finance also varies in accordance with the development stages of the countries measured by the level of income per capita. It shows as countries move towards higher income levels, they tend to experience declining ratios of ODA relative to GDP and increasing tax revenues relative to GDP. The empirical facts imply that each country must consider the transition of the source of development finance in accordance with the level of national income per capita. In general, the evolution follows an upward trajectory from international public finance to domestic public finance, and then to domestic and international private finance. As Bhutan moves to the upper bracket of income per capita, it will face a challenge of how to transfer key responsibility for financing development from international public finance to private finance. Meanwhile, the global business sector had been deeply committed to the formulation process of the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs. In addition to the collective actions as business sector, the top management of the global companies also released their individual statements as well as their group manifesto on the various occasions of the intergovernmental negotiations and the UN Sustainable Development Summit in 2015 that emphasized the role and responsibilities of the global business sector and the individual commitments to achieve the new development goals. It's already becoming a common practice that the corporate value is measured and assessed not only by their financial information, but it is also measured by various types of stakeholders who are so different in their perspectives. So far, the SDGs have been proposing a more comprehensive viewpoint than any other indicator, and they are becoming a common language to be widely shared among stakeholders such as investors, customers, CEOs, CSOs, and their own employees when evaluating companies and their business activities from the perspective of sustainability. Studying the SDGs and their strengths and weaknesses, global trends in their respective fields, and synchronizing with them, will be the conditions for the company's survival in the global competition. Passive response to the emerging needs while keeping the previous business model unchanged could be inefficient. Instead, it may be more reasonable for the global companies to master in the SDGs and streamline their businesses in accordance with them. That will help them to enhance their corporate value. In the meantime, the sustainability parameters have been becoming more relevant not only for the corporate management, but also for investors. Clark and the others in their 2015 publication investigated over 200 academic studies and sources on sustainability and found that sustainability information is relevant for corporate performance and investment returns. In early 2005, the then UN Secretary General, Kofi Annan, invited a group of world's largest institutional investors to join a process to develop the principles for responsible investment, PRI. When the PRI was formally launched in 2006, it started with just 63 signatories in $6.5 trillion of total assets under management. The number of signatories consisting of asset owners, investment managers, and service providers has grown to 1,714 as of April 2017, and the total assets under management have reached $68.4 trillion. Global Sustainable Investment Alliance biannually estimates the volume of sustainable investing in the world. According to their 2017 report, at the start of 2016, there were $23 trillion of assets being professionally managed globally under responsible investment strategies, at an increase of 25% since 2014. In all the regions except Europe, sustainable investing's market has grown. In relative terms, responsible investment now stands at 26% of all the professionally managed assets globally. Clearly, sustainable investing constitutes a major force across global financial markets. At first glance, Japan's growth seems remarkable, even though the total volume still remains very small compared to those of Europe, the United States, and Canada. There are a few reasons for Japan's rapid growth. In September 2015, the world's largest pension fund, the Japan Government Pension Investment Fund, or GPIF, became a PRI signatory. In July 2017, GPIF has selected 3 ESG indexes for Japanese equities and commenced passive investment tracking those indexes. More recently, GPIF has signed the MOU with the World Bank Group in October 2017 over formal partnerships to expand markets for sustainable investing. GPIF's total asset is $1.3 trillion as of June 2017, and they allocate 24% of the total assets in foreign equities. With the global policy environment as described in the previous slides, we now look back at the present situation in Bhutan. At the 13th Roundtable meeting, a forum for policy dialogue and aid coordination held in Thimphu in March 2017, it was highlighted that Bhutan is to graduate from a least developed to a lower middle income country by the year 2020. The royal government of Bhutan has been expecting the total outlay for the 12 five-year plan period to be around 300 billion New Dram, which is 39% increase from the total expenditure for the 11th five-year plan period. While they are expecting 95% increase in domestic revenue, they are projecting 20% reduction in external grants. At first glance, preliminary fiscal projection of the RGOB has been following the similar path to be ready for the LDC graduation, reducing the dependency on the external grants. However, since the release of the guideline for the preparation for the 12th five-year plan in December 2016, the Bhutan has been upset by a series of internal and external events which may cause unfavorable fiscal impacts on the country. Under the above circumstances, we need to start discussing alternative sources of development financing. In this regard, we would like to propose the formulation of a new stock exchange in Bhutan. Earlier this morning, the GNH certification tool for business was launched. Business companies that qualify will be awarded the GNH certificate as an incentive which will also serve as a powerful brand that carries the impact of GNH. Using GNH indicators, this process would measure the commitment of companies to behave ethically and contribute to the happiness of workers as well as that of their customers, community, and society. This certification tool may first be applied to the Bhutanese companies, but our proposal is to apply this certification tool to the global companies who want to be assessed in terms of the contribution to the happiness of all the stakeholders. Let us now look at the business model of the stock exchange, taking an example of the Japan Exchange Group. It indicates that the stock exchange will have four major revenue sources. One, transaction fees from buying and selling of stocks. Two, commissions for clearing stocks and settlements. Three, service fees from annual listing or initial or additional listing. And four, subscribers' fees for market information services. This pie chart also describes the revenue structure of the Japan Exchange Group. And also, I would like to show that operational profit margin of the Japan Exchange Group is 55%. So that shows it's very profitable one. Well, it is one of the typical cases of platform business. But it has a dilemma that users will not come to a platform unless it has value, and that the platform won't have value unless it has users. The advantage of Bhutan in this regard is the GNH concept. Taking contribution to the happiness of all the stakeholders as a listing requirement for the new stock exchange, Bhutan could make a difference from other global stock markets and invite the global listed companies to come to list in Bhutan. Bhutan is in the best and monopolistic position to make full use of the GNH concept and disseminate globally the GNH certification tool for business. No other country is able to offer this type of a new stock exchange. Conclusion: the happiness exchange may have a potential to emerge as a new revenue source from various services they could offer to users and participants, while it may also pave the way for the Bhutanese companies to go global by raising funds for their operations and capital investments. However, in order for the existing Bhutanese stock exchange, Royal Stock Exchange of Bhutan, RSEB, to emerge as full-fledged global stock market, there is still a long way to go. In this regard, we could learn from the experience of the other countries in the institutional development of the stock market, even though it still primarily targets the domestic companies and domestic investors. In December 2015, the Yangon Stock Exchange was launched in Myanmar as a joint initiative between the governments of Myanmar and Japan.
1 minute remaining.
Sure. Since the first contact between the key stakeholders from the two countries in 1993, it has taken more than 20 years for Myanmar to open its first stock market. Their experience also indicates that besides the establishment of the stock exchange per se, there should be extra measures to enhance the capacity of the other stakeholders constituting the supporting infrastructure for the proposed stock market. That includes securities companies, think tanks, security analysts, regulatory authority, as well as legal framework. Ladies and gentlemen, these are still our preliminary thoughts that need a lot of scrutiny. It will be our pleasure to present a new perspective to the ongoing discussion in Bhutan on the alternative sources of development financing. It takes time, so we should start now. Thank you, and Tasdele.